and that in fact the soul needs to be constructed in such a way that tendency should be completely opposed and rooted out. Because there's no tendency or ability which doesn't have a side of good. Gamkein, which doesn't also have a side of good. But the midah, the tendency in the personality, the tendency in the psyche, one must use it according to the will of Shem Yisbarach. And if it's not according to Ratzon Shem Yisbarach, Gamma midas toivus rois. And if it's not according to Ratzon Shem Yisbarach, even good midas can be bad. Like Shaul was punished because of Rachmanis, because Rachmanis is a good midah, but Shaul had Rachmanis in the wrong place and he was punished because of it. That it says that because Reb Zechariah ben Avkulis didn't want to take action against Bar Kamsa, because of that the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed. So sometimes good midas are appropriate, sometimes bad midas are appropriate. Even bad midas might be appropriate sometimes according to the divine will, according to the divine will in that situation. And by Talmid Chacham, they Chazal that Chazal say that that it's desirable that a Talmid Chacham should be makbar on his covet, and that he should avenge himself if people embarrass him, if people don't treat him properly. So what? And he says, it says kenochash. Why does it say kenochash? Like a serpent, that a Talmid Chacham is supposed to be noikim v'noita kenochash. He's supposed to avenge himself like a serpent. Why did it say like a serpent? V'nochash was shoyrish rabba kas. That nochash means the shoyrish rabba kas. That it's expressing the fact that this midah is rooted very much in Ra. But in this instance, the Talmid Chacham has to be makbar on kover HaTorah. It's appropriate for him to use the Yetzer Hara. It's appropriate for him in this instance to use the Yetzer Hara for toiv, to use that midah in himself of kas for toiv. And if not, it's no good. And they're speaking about a Talmid Chacham where all his purposes and all his desires are to carry out the will of God, Adarabah, who toiv ma'oid. Then it's very good that sometimes he should go with the bad midah, al derech she'omu zechreinu levracha, like Chazal said, toiv ma'oid, like it says in the pasuk, toiv ma'oid, vayar l'kim ki toiv ma'oid, say toiv is Yetzer Hara, toiv is toiv ma'oid, ze Yetzer Hara. Toiv ma'oid means the Yetzer Hara, that there are times when using the Yetzer Hara is appropriate.
Right, even if, it sounds like you're saying, I'm feeling this movement of my emotions because of personal pride, but I know that it'll also serve.
I'm not sure.
You're talking about totally unmixed motives, but yet it's anger still.
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not sure what he means. I'm not saying that anything like that yet. I don't know if he means that the Talmid Chacham is spontaneously aroused to avenge himself just because of his own personality, and then he realizes that is godly, or it means that he should arouse himself with godly intent. Any way you look at it, in order for someone to avenge himself on his enemies, in order for someone to be makbar on his cover, they'll need to arouse a certain amount of anger. It doesn't say
that
for me.
The anger on your own behalf and the anger on God's behalf or on another's behalf, that would be maybe in one category.
These are all good questions.
They're the same midah.
These are all good questions. They are all the same midah. They are all the same midah because anger is anger. In terms of a psychic tendency, a tendency in the personality, the psychic energy, anger is anger. That doesn't yet say that it's all the same and it doesn't matter how you do it and any kind of anger is okay. I always say over that I heard once from the Kleisberger Rebbe that the Heilige Bechuche, the Das Kedoshim, that he used to have. He was a tremendous Talmid Chacham when he was thinking, learning all the time. So it was very difficult for him when he used to go to the Beis HaKisei, when he used to go to relieve himself. It was very difficult for him because it was very hard for him not to think of learning all the time, and you're not allowed. So he said he used to bang on the wall the whole time to distract himself, so he shouldn't think of learning.
So it says in Pirkei Avos, doesn't it, not to get too close to the grave of Rabbanim because you might get burned.
Yeah. So have you Zorba Gachalt? So one time there was some Shegetzel in the city, a maskell, a modern guy, or whatever, he decided to mess him up. You know, in those times, the Batakisois, where they went to relieve themselves were outside, outhouses. So somebody locked him in there. This guy locked him in there. This guy locked him in there. He was in there for a long time. He was in there for half an hour, 45 minutes, whatever. He couldn't get out. And it was, had the God gefährliche Yisirim, and he was banging on the wall. He couldn't get out. You know, what was he going to do? He couldn't get out. You know, so that's it. He was locked in there. He was locked in there. So eventually he managed to break out. Eventually, he managed to break out, and he managed to break out. So. Managed to break out and save himself from this guy and end his suffering of having to bang on the wall and keep himself going and stopping himself from thinking and learning all the time. So, also not as a Baltung gehabt the shofar. The Baltung gehabt the shofar. He went right away to grab the shofar to put this man in chayr, you know, to make the whole ceremony with shofars and candles and everything. Toch kadai diberat l'saved like. The mamish, that second that he grabbed the shofar, he put it down right away. That second he grabbed the shofar, he put it down right away. He says, "As ich mein, the heilige Torah aktoish is git, aber was is as ich mein sie that if I really mean for the Torah, okay, but maybe I only mean for myself because he started up with me, so he put away the shofar right away, and he. So what am I trying to bring out? I'm trying to bring out. It makes a big difference what you really mean, and of course, it's possible for a person just to lose himself in his own personal anger and so on. I don't know that the tzaddik is saying here this type of thing that Tam Chacham could just do whatever he wants and he could just get angry what he wants because everything he does is great and holy and it comes from above. I'm not saying at all that he's saying that. But all I know that he's saying seemingly is that there are occasions where it's appropriate for Tam Chacham to use anger and express anger, and it would be considered holy and it would be considered appropriate, even though it's seemingly an expression of a bad midah, but it's a bad midah expressed in the appropriate place. Okay. Now he goes on to say. So he's talking about how everything has its place and all the different midahs have their places, even though they're appropriate places, even though they seem to be on the face of it. The midahs seem to be bad midahs, but in the place where HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants you to conduct yourself in that way, they're appropriate. It goes on to say, therefore the Nevi'im used to weep and lament over the destruction of nations. So we find that Chazal, we find that the Nevi'im in different places expressed the mourning and lament for Gentile nations that were destroyed, even though it would seem that those Gentile nations were wicked, but they expressed mourning and lament for the destruction of those nations. Now, so he goes on to say that there's a deep principle involved there. That Yadua kol umahu koyach miyuchad. Every nation, even from among the Gentile nations, every nation represents a certain psychic energy, a certain midah, a certain koyach, a certain personality type. Every nation represents that, and Yadua kol umahu koyach miyuchad shivim